You're listening to the Really Useful Podcast. This is the tech podcast for technophobes from makeuseof.com. Welcome to the show. My name's Christian Corley. For the next 20 to 30 minutes, you can enjoy a collection of tips and tricks to help you make the best use out of your technology. I'll be joined by my podcasting co-hosts Ben Stegner and Gavin Phillips as we walk our way through a collection of technological tips that will make you realize that you haven't been using things quite as well as you should have been. Before we get on with the tricks and tips, however, there's a little bit of technology news to get through. This is the tech news that matters about devices that you're likely to be using or already use. First of all, if you've broken your Samsung Gallery screen, you can now repair it and other things yourself. Samsung and iFixit have launched a self-repair program so that you can fix your phone's screen and battery, charging port, or the back cover yourself. They've teamed up to launch a self-repair program that will enable these parts to be ordered along with the necessary tools. This means you can fix your Samsung Galaxy phone at home. The program's rolled out in the US and enables you to repair your screen and other parts of the device, with more options on their way soon. Originally announced earlier this year, the repair program is now available to join. You can order through iFixit in the US. That's where you'll find the replacement parts for Galaxy S20 and S21 in the Standard Plus and Ultra variants, as well as the Samsung Galaxy S7 Plus to start off with. Samsung and iFixit are planning to add more devices in future. Now, as part of the order, you'll receive genuine Samsung parts, as well as the tools and screws you need to complete the job, and comprehensive step-by-step instructions to walk you through the process. You'll also get a returns label to ship off the parts you've removed and no longer need, and they'll go to recycling. But how much is this likely to cost? Well, for a standard Galaxy S21 phone, you can replace 3 parts: the screen and battery. That will set you back $167.99. The USB-C charge port, that's $66.99. And the back cover, also $66.99. Now, the prices do depend on the model you're working with. The larger Galaxy S21 Ultra screen and battery, for instance, they cost $70 more. The screen repairs include the phone screen, metal frame, bezel, and battery. And you can't replace just the screen or battery on its own. Samsung also recommends that you shouldn't replace swollen batteries yourself. Swollen batteries indicate an issue with the chemical makeup of the battery. They can explode or simply rupture. Either way, there's a bit of a problem in terms of chemical leakage, possible burns, or worse. Now, this move marks another big step forward for the Right to Repair initiative, which we've featured repeatedly on the Really Useful podcast over the years. The movement marked a notable achievement in 2021 when Apple announced its own self-repair scheme, and Samsung's scheme sits alongside that. Samsung and iFixit say that their new program will help make phones last longer, help consumers save money, and benefit the environment by reducing e-waste. It's a way to make your phone last longer, basically. Samsung already leads the way in software support for Android and offers 4 full operating system updates for its major devices, along with 5 years of security updates. I've personally experienced Samsung's doorstep repair service a few years ago, which long-running listeners may recall. This will hopefully go some way in ensuring that hardware will last for as long as the software. 5 years for a phone is good going, and it's rare in a world of breakages, broken screens, and that sort of thing, and easy trade-ins. Hopefully, if you have the skills to do repairs and the equipment is as readily available as it's expected to be, thanks to iFixit and Samsung, your phone will last longer. We'll move on to some security news now. The Lockbit ransomware is exploiting Windows Defender. It's a type of ransomware known as Lockbit 3.0, which is being used to deploy Cobalt Strike payloads via the Windows Defender's command line tool. Cybersecurity firm SentinelOne has reported a new threat actor using the Lockbit 3.0, also known as Lockbit Black, to abuse the mpcmd-run.exe file. This is a command line utility that forms part of the Windows security system. It scans for malware, so it's no surprise that it's being targeted in this attack. It's being used to deploy post-exploitation Cobalt Strike payloads, which can lead to data theft. Therefore, this affects everyone from standard users to businesses. Now, Lockbit has already been used to abuse the VMware command line. This is an executable file known as VMware exforlogs.exe. In this DLL sideloading technique, the attacker exploited the log4shell vulnerability and tricked the VMware utility into loading a malicious DLL instead of the original harmless DLL. In SentinelOne's blog post, which we'll link to in the show notes, it stated that VMware and Windows Defender have a high prevalence in the enterprise and a high utility to threat actors if they are allowed to operate outside of the installed security controls. Attacks of this nature, wherein security measures are evaded, are becoming increasingly common, with VMware and Windows Defender having been made key targets in such ventures. Mitigation is basically a case of awaiting the next Windows security update to deal with this vulnerability. Amazon Prime is it's not talked about as much as Netflix and Disney Plus and various other services, but Amazon Prime Video is something that a lot of people have because they've paid for it along with, as part of the whole Amazon Prime service. And it's very easy to forget about Amazon Prime, actually, because it's integrated so well with, if you've got an Amazon Fire TV stick or box, or if you have an Amazon Fire tablet, it's there and it's ready to use. Now, at the time of us having this conversation, all the Bond movies are free to watch on Amazon Prime Video if you have an Amazon Prime subscription or you have the monthly Prime Video subscription. That enough is reason, in my mind, for you to have Amazon Prime Video. But the thing about Amazon Prime Video is that it has a few secrets and a lot of people don't know about. Our colleague Joe Keeley has compiled these, and there's 9 secret Amazon Prime videos that you're probably not using. And I'm going to go through them in a moment. I just want to check. Ben, do you use Amazon Prime Video?
I do, yeah. I've had Prime for a couple of years. I don't actively use it like every day. It's more if I want to watch something and it's on there, I go to that, obviously, since it's included. Yeah, there's more I'd like to watch on it, but I don't use it all the time. But I do use it on my smart TV is where I usually access it.
Cool. Yeah, I use it quite a lot. We usually use it through the Fire Stick. Watch old episodes of NCIS at bedtime. I don't know why. It's just a thing we do.
If Bond is still on there, I need to take advantage of that because I've only seen a handful of the Bond movies.
Yeah, I've watched a few on there. I mean, I've seen every Bond movie at the cinema since 1985.
Oh wow, that's quite a feat. What was the first one you saw?
A View to a Kill.
Okay.
And yeah, I've seen them all at the cinema since then. One of them I missed until it was really close to the end of its run. But aside from that one, I've seen them all almost in the first week. But and I would have seen Octopussy at the cinema, which is the 1983 movie, if it were not for the fact that at the same time there was a more important movie to watch called Return of the Jedi.
I see.
So yeah. Anyhow, that's beside the by the by. Number one, the first thing you can do is you can hide a movie or TV show in the Amazon Prime Video app. You can do hide this movie season, and it just it doesn't appear in your recommendations again. And if you want to make it visible again, you can go to the cog icon, click settings, and switch to the hidden videos tab, and click don't hide next to whichever you want to see again. Now, if you use Amazon Prime Video, you may know that there's content comes and goes. And if you want to see stuff before it goes, you can click categories and choose only for a limited time on Prime, or that will show you the things that are about to go soon. There's other things you can do. You can share Amazon Prime with someone, much like you can with pretty much any streaming service, a friend, family member, whatever. You can disable autoplay, which is quite useful because I think they all do this, don't they? Disney Plus seems to do this. Netflix almost certainly does this. Is when you highlight something and then it just starts playing automatically, and you kind of don't really want it to.
Yeah, I hate both forms of autoplay. I
Yeah.
hate the episode ends and goes to another thing autoplay, and I hate the like hover over something and it plays automatically autoplay. I think they're both annoying.
Yeah, you can disable this in Amazon Prime Video by going to the cog icon, clicking settings, switching to the tab labeled player, and then turn autoplay to off. You can also do the same for autoplay trailers. There's a cool feature when you pause something on Amazon Prime Video. This thing called X-ray appears, and it will give you information about the people that are in the scene at the moment. And you can scroll through it left and right. You can look at the cast. You can look at the characters. You can look at the music as well, and it can give you more details about the scene, people that wrote it, directed it, that sort of thing. Some TV shows, you can look at random episodes, view random episodes, but this only works in the Android version of the Amazon Prime Video app. And you basically do this by clicking, opening a show, then clicking more and selecting shuffle episodes. It isn't available for all shows. I guess with continuing dramas, it would maybe not make sense.
If it's like a general sitcom or something,
Yeah, it's
would probably
probably
be
okay.
like Seinfeld or something where you can watch it out of order.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably okay.
This to me though is like going to an album and just shuffling the songs, which is just I don't know why you would ever do that. So this to me makes me sad. But
well, for compilation albums, I don't think it's a problem. For albums that are a group or an individual's kind of artistic endeavor and creation, and a lot of time and effort has been spent in recording the songs to then be placed in a specific order to create the album, then shuffle is not the thing to do, is it?
I agree, but I know that's not the popular opinion these days. I'm super album oriented.
Download for offline playback is something else you can do with Amazon Prime Videos, and it's a really good idea to do that, particularly if you have children and you're going out the house, is to make sure you're downloading the stuff that they want to watch before you go out, rather than being forced to use your phone as a tethered mobile internet hub or whatever. You can also host a watch party on Amazon Prime Video. It requires other people with Amazon Prime, but you can then just click on the watch party icon from the show and create a watch party and invite up to 100 people, and they all get to view it at exactly the same time. And finally, you can find the content that is free to you with the free to me tab. That is something that's only recently been introduced. It used to be a bit of a pain to go through and find the stuff that is free with Prime Video, because it gets mixed in with stuff that you have to pay for. And incredibly, even though you're paying for Prime Video, there is still stuff on there that you do still have to pay for. But on the other hand, so does everyone that doesn't have Prime Video. So yeah,
it's a confusing. It's the mix of services. It's kind of like with Prime Music, where you might think, "Oh, Prime Music, it's like Spotify," but it's not really. It's just some music is kind of unclear.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely true. And with Prime Video, you can kind of buy. You could subscribe to Discovery Channel. You can subscribe to BritBox, all via Prime Video. So it's kind of useful to have it all in one place, but at the same time, it can be confusing if you don't want to use those. So that's what you can do with Amazon Prime Video that you probably didn't know about. Let's move on to how to fix Amazon Prime Video when it is not working. Before we do this, I'm always puzzled by the number of people who don't seem to use Amazon Prime Video.
Well, even if they have
Amazon Prime, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I went a long time without it, actually. I cancelled my Prime account, but I've actually just done the opposite. I've cancelled my Netflix account and taken up.
That's there's a button for that, isn't there? Is it that one? Not quite what I had in mind, but it kind of does the job, I think.
Absolutely. I think nailed it, to be honest. But yeah, so I cancelled Netflix and took up an Amazon Prime account again. At least because you get the additional benefit of the postage and all that with Amazon Prime. And Netflix has just got progressively worse, hasn't it?
We rarely use Netflix. We have a kind of a family thing going on. So we have Disney Plus, and we share that with my wife's sister's family who live around the corner. And then they have Netflix, and they share that with us. And then we have Amazon Prime, and we also have BritBox, which we don't share with anyone. but I'm pretty sure they're using Netflix. They're using Disney more than we're using Netflix.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I can't remember the last time we watched anything on Netflix. No, it's gone. It's completely gone.
Hello?
Yeah, I just don't know what it was.
Okay.
So anyway, Amazon Prime Video can be a little bit tricksy from time to time, and if it's not working, then there's various things that you need to check out. I'm going to kind of scoot over most of this. You'll find the full details in the show notes as ever. But basically, you need to make sure, first of all, that your Amazon Prime Video account is actually active, because if it's not active, you ain't getting in. You also need to ensure that your device meets the minimum requirements. At the time of writing, it was Windows 7 or newer, Mac OS 10.7 or newer. Linux operating systems are also supported, but it would really depend on your internet speed and your browser version across the board, really. So you need to be using Google Chrome 59 or later, Mozilla Firefox version 53 or later, Microsoft Edge on Windows 10, Safari version 10 or newer on Mac OS 10, 12.1 or newer, and even Opera version 37 you can use Amazon Prime Video. Various issues occur with Amazon Prime Video, and they are very much device specific. One of the best ways to deal with it when you get an error message is just to Google the error message, and 9 times out of 10 you'll be taken to the Amazon website and it'll tell you what the problem is. However, there can be other issues such as video server issues, but the main issue I found with Amazon Prime, I'm using an Amazon Fire Stick here particularly, is it being unable to detect the network, even when you've got really good network reception in that particular room. I don't know what the problem is, whether it's because it's an older Amazon Prime Video Stick, or Amazon Fire TV Stick I should say, or if it just is a caching issue. So you can clear the cache and clear data on any Amazon Prime app, whether it's on a mobile device or if it's actually the Fire Stick itself. You can also just restart it to restart things. But I would say the older Fire Sticks you need to move on from, because they are kind of clunky, and every time there's an update it's taking up more space on the device, which gives you less space for everything else on your device.
Yeah, precisely. I would also say, always try the classic. Have you tried turning it off and on again?
It's a good one. The only problem is, I suppose it's not so much a problem with a browser or a app on any other kind of device, I suppose. But with the app, because it's the actual Amazon Fire Stick, turn it off and on again, it does take a bit of a while to reboot.
It does actually, and I know when I've done it and had to then wait, a full 2 minutes for it to whir back into life, with kids and people getting increasingly angry that the TV has stopped working. So yeah, do it lightly.
Do it lightly, yes. We're going to move on now to there's a thing called UPnP, Universal Plug and Play, which you may have heard of or you may not have heard of. It's usually found in relation to routers, but it's a little bit unclear what it is to a lot of people. So what is UPnP, Gavin?
Well, as it sounds, you plug it in and you start playing. But outside of that, extremely useful and descriptive terminology, UPnP effectively tells typically routers that whatever device you're plugging into your computer is okay to communicate with the rest of the devices within your network. So instead of you having to go in and configure files, and in the case, say, of an internet connected device, you won't have to forward any of the data from the router to the device and vice versa. Effectively, it enables you to plug it in and start using it. Now, that sounds very good, and a lot of people use it because of the ease of use. But one of the biggest issues is security, because UPnP assumes that every device with UPnP installed and enabled is a friendly device, shall we say. And the eagle-eared among us will be going, well, that doesn't sound right, because what if it wasn't a friendly device that had UPnP installed on it regardless? And that is indeed one of the biggest flaws in UPnP, in that it can enable unfriendly devices to take advantage of it, skirt security restrictions, and infiltrate networks.
Ouch. So it is a security risk then?
It is and it isn't. So, as with many things that are security risks, a lot of the risk comes from devices that aren't configured correctly. So, one of the biggest things that people say is keep your devices up to date. And that's because device updates often bring and install the latest security measures. So, and in the case of your router, your Wi-Fi router downstairs or wherever it is in your house, that's another device that still requires updates. They're not as frequent as, say, Windows or maybe your smartphone or what have you, but it still does receive updates. And when your router falls out of line with its updates, it can become vulnerable to these sorts of issues.
Okay, so it's a good idea to disable UPnP or not?
Well, if you are running a router, say, that's out of date and maybe can't get a new security update, it's probably worth disabling. But if you have a modern router that's maybe been bought in the last sort of 4 or 5 years, it's up to date, it receives frequent firmware updates, that's the type of software that runs on a router. If it can receive those frequently, then you shouldn't really technically have a problem with it. However, you will read a lot of security advice saying, just disable it, you don't need it, it's not going to make a difference. And to a certain extent, that's true, but every now and then you definitely will run into problems with devices where you plug them in and they don't communicate as you're expecting. And that's because you have turned off UPnP, Universal Plug and Play.
Okay, so keep your hardware up to date where you can, and if you can't, then disable UPnP. Seems to be the takeaway there. Well, that brings us to the end almost of this week's really useful podcast from makeuseof.com. But before I close proceedings, I have a quick recommendation for you. Over the past few weeks, I've been veering towards recommending the Oppo Reno 8 Pro, and the reason I held off on recommending this phone is because the review wasn't ready yet and the phone wasn't actually out to buy, but now it is, and I'll include in the show notes the link to the review. The camera on this device is absolutely stunning. I think it's the best smartphone camera around at the moment. It's certainly up there. It is really, really impressive. It records in slow motion. It records in the movie mode. It records in the dark in a way that will surprise you. It's a very, very good camera phone, and it's a good phone as well. You've been listening to the Really Useful Podcast. I'm Christian Corley. My co-hosts are Ben Stegner and Gavin Phillips. If you've enjoyed the show, let us know through our Facebook link or on Twitter. And if you have any thoughts about the show that you'd like to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, please do so. You'll find the link to that in the show notes if you're not already subscribed through Apple Podcasts. The podcast is available anywhere you can find podcasts. So if we've said something that you can share with your friends and family, some useful tips and tricks, etc., use the sharing feature and maybe get them to subscribe via their preferred podcasting solution. We'll be back for another show soon. Until then, it's goodbye.